All praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kodash, double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Stone. Shalom to the elect pushing this word in truth and in sincerity, with the hope of receiving mercy for Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai. Yahweh is the name of the Heavenly Father. Yahushai is the name of His only begotten Son. The so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans are the Israelites according to the prophecies that are written in the scriptures. The MOTB is the RFID microchip. So, with that being declared, I want to just go straight into this lesson. And this was inspired by me watching a clip from Hugo Talks. And he made mention of the Roman Empire. And the Roman Empire still being here now. And this is facts. But in there, you have certain incorrect statements and you have certain factual statements in which you have to know to pick out the bones. So, I'm going to just go in there and do a quick video on this topic showing the similarities between America and ancient Rome, because a lot of people not even know these things. And this is why we say we are in the second leg of the Roman Empire, which America is that new Rome, and the EU is the vassal states that was under the Roman Empire. So let's get it.
This last week, I haven't been able to get many videos done, but those certain things I feel that are strange have led me to talking about this subject today. And today I'm going to be talking about the Book of Revelation. Book of Revelation is the final book of the Bible and is full of apocalyptic prophecy. The beast coming out of the sea, the mark of the beast, the whore of Babylon, etc., etc. And I'm going to be focusing specifically on Revelation chapter 12 in this video. And I'm going to go through it with a fine tooth comb. What you see about this subject and that which is promoted by the beast system, I believe is to mislead people. But before I get into this Revelation chapter 12, I want to talk about a few other things first. And before going into this, it might be handy to go back and check my Roman Empire Never Went Away video, because in my opinion, the Roman Empire, as the video title says, it never went away. People will have you believe that Rome fell in the year 476, but no, that was just a hiccup. It was a head wound, which has now healed. It then diversified. It spread its eagle wings. It became the Holy Roman Empire and the Byzantine Empire. It became the Vatican. And
So, as him say, it become a lot, but it has become America. You see me? When they say the Roman Empire now, that encap Europe and Canada. That's why you have the NATO. That's the beast. So, as I hear him just make mention of that wound, and that is written in the scriptures, yeah? So this is Revelation 13 verse 1. And I stood upon the sun of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And this is talking about the ancient Roman Empire and the vassal states. And the beast which I saw, which was like unto a leopard, and the leopard represents the beginning of Esau's rulership. That's why it was referred to as the Greco-Roman Empire. Because the Romans get a lot of their customs from the Greeks. And his feet were as the feet of the bear, and the bear represent the fall of Esau's kingdom, yo. Because Russia is going to be one of the main factor for the fall of this current Roman Empire. That's why you see right now a proxy war taking place between Russia and NATO, which Ukraine is fighting that proxy war. And that is one of the main reasons why NATO was even formed, to go against the USSR. These things are all spiritual, yo. That's why they are spiritually discerned. So Russia is not a part of the beast, but Russia is going to be one of the reasons the beast fall, you know? And his mouth as the mouth of a lion, and the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. And I saw one of his head as it were wounded to death. And this is where he made mention of here, this great wound. And his deadly wound was healed. That's why them could have go across right around the world, go push them vain philosophy, because that deadly wound was healed, and them come over here to the Americas and enslave our brothers from the northern kingdom and bring us over to this side of the land and enslave us. And all the world wondered after the beast. And as I can see right now. But just to get more in depth, we're going to go to Revelation 13 verse 11. This is speaking of America. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. And that is talking about the political divide. 2 horns like a lamb, and that is how them go to the people, like they're for the people, yeah? But that's just a means of deception to bring forth draconian laws. That's why I say speak. Let me read it. And he spake as a dragon, to bring in draconian measures, draconian laws. It's about to go back to the Greek, the Athenian lawgiver, Draco. So these information you have to dive into history to understand. Verse 12, and he exercised all the power of the first beast before him, and caused the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, which is Rome, whose deadly wound was healed. And Rome come back as America and the EU. The EU represent the vassal states. And also Canada. Because Canada is part of what? NATO. Because that is the beast written off in Revelation. The second leg of the Roman Empire. So a lot of people might hear certain things get declared and them not see the similarities why we say America is the second leg of the Roman Empire. So I have some clip for you to watch.
Buildings in DC, New York, they use the wisdom of the fallen and our inability to see things that are right in front of our face, like we're just blind, and they put these things out there, and people love them. We all grew up loving the Statue of Liberty, but it's like the veil had just yet to be lifted off of our eyes, and so many things just slip right through the cracks. But one thing that I just found out the other day, and I've been wanting to share this, but I've been extremely busy, there is some connections to Rome and America that are mind-blowing, that I had never heard of. I don't know how I had never heard of this. To some of you truthers, you've probably heard this years ago. This is brand new to me, and I'm guessing it may be to others. But Rome and America do have some really strange connections. I'm just going to jump right into it, and you'll see what I'm talking about, because a lot of people look at the prophecies in Revelation and Daniel about 7 mountains and all that. You know, I guess it says 7 mountains, but it's also a word for hill. And the thing is, there's a lot of places like that, with Washington, D.C. being one of them, being built on 7 hills. These hills have names. But that's not where it gets interesting. Let's look at the original name of Washington, D.C. Back before it was known as Washington, D.C., this land on 7 hills had a name.
So as I say, with these videos, you have to know how to pick out the bones, yo. You see me? Because the seven mountains represent areas where the beast rule, the vassal states, as I have said.
What was that name? Rome. No kidding. You can look this up. Rome, Maryland. And this is probably old news for some of you. I did not know this until the other day. I was just aware of the Rome connection because of the symbols that they have. I'd never really looked much further into it than that. But DC was known as Rome, Maryland. And the guy, listen to this, this is going to blow your mind. The guy who owned it, the guy who owned the land, the plot of land where the Capitol building was, his name was Francis Pope. And I was on a Catholic website looking up some information as I was digging through all this. And they said, yeah, it's in Rome. And we have a Pope called Pope Francis in the year called Rome. That's not where it ends. It always gets deeper and deeper. There was a guy who owned the 10 square mile area, all of that, and they get angry. I am not anti-Catholic. Some of the best people I know, just another little connection, kind of like Mr. Sun God Worshipper over here. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's this picture here. It's older than when it was actually let out. The guy passed away before this picture became popular. But even if you guys don't know what I'm talking about with the Jesuits, here's one of them who created the Big Bang version that we go by today. This guy right here. His name is Georges Henry Lemaitre or Lamont. I don't know how you say his name. I'm probably butchering it. But that guy right there next to Albert Fraud Einstein. And he's created the Big Bang. And he was supposed to be a soldier of God. And he totally erased the true creation story, and it has stuck. And it's why people get so angry when you expose that lie, because it has to do with the spirit of the Antichrist. I'm not going to go into a full-out lesson in this video about little children. It is the last time, and as now already something, it was an artifact that was given to Constantine. And this is where that spirit of the Antichrist has done
I think him that go into more in depth on the similarities, but
as the father.
Those are fucking fighting words, excuse me.
For their stance on abortions today, but were blamed for being too progressive in the 4th century. Another dispute resonating in the US society.
Almost every day, another one falls.
Statues removal. There were spontaneous outbursts of statues removal in the Roman Empire upon the death of a tyrant emperor, but usually not on a massive scale. To match such immense barbarism that happens in the USA, we need to go further in the Roman history, to the Byzantine Empire, a Greek rump state that survived the collapse of Rome in the 5th century. Even though Byzantines fought bravely against numerous enemies, their empire dwindled under countless attacks. And in the 8th century, a group of fanatics saw the clear reason behind Byzantine misfortunes. BC. How Romans were clueless in terms of naming their opponents is summarized in the word Germans, even though those tribes had hardly anything in common. Both nations were also plagued by how incapable they turn out to be in conquering much smaller enemies, showing a clear signs of limitations of their empires. While the common Americans fail to understand why is it important to have their troops fighting in such distant countries like Vietnam and Afghanistan, common Romans were also opposed to an idea of conquering such distant countries like Caledonia and Germania, countries with zero economical potential. The USA and the late Roman Empire had the hard power, a superior and numerous army to destroy their enemies, but lacked the soft power, the support of its own citizens to actually get things done. The USA had to pull out of Iraq and Afghanistan and Vietnam because of the same reasons Tiberius left Germania unconquered. Domitian called Agricola off his successful Caledonian campaign, and Hadrian abandoned Mesopotamia. These wars were unprofitable and unattainable. While the US Army is the most powerful army today, spending more on its military than China, India, Russia, UK, Germany and others combined, it still manages to keep its army expenditures at around 20% of its federal budget, while the late Roman Empire spent as much as 60% to keep its 500,000 army running. Both armies, the US and the late Roman, are and were, however, also very ineffective in terms of achieving long-term goals. Romans lost between 300,000 soldiers in the Second Punic War against Hannibal in the 2nd century BC. That's 1/3 of all adult male population and roughly 5% of its total population. That was around 6 million at a time. And here is my theory. Rome's way to glory wasn't paved by victories, but rather by number of casualties they were willing to sacrifice for the dominance. Romans lost many battles against Samnites, but eventually they subjugated them. Cimbrian War in the 1st century BC was one disastrous battle after another for the Roman Republic, but they won the war anyway. You can't keep getting away with it! If you were to fight in the time period against CGP Grey has a very nice video describing challenges every statesman needs to face in order to stay in power.
The individuals needed to make the necessary things happen are the king's keys to power. All the changes you wish to make are but thoughts in your head if the keys will not follow your commands.
The USA faces a similar problem as the late Roman emperors did. All of the state's funds end up eaten by their keys that keep them in power. While the US politicians spend all their funds and effort on mobilizing their key/voters in their voting districts, because the specific US voting system gives privilege to a handful of states while kinda ignoring the rest. They put emphasis only on their keys/voters that can vote them out, and it causes that the US politicians do not reach across the aisle to the opposing party to solve the real issues of the American empire that requires a bipartisan effort. This was also the reason of the downfall of the Roman Empire. The late Roman emperors didn't give a damn about making better lives for anyone, with the only exception, and those were the legions, because they were the only authority to make and unmake them. The only time the late Roman emperors showed any interest in lives of common people was through meaningless and empty gestures, through the only propaganda machine that was at their disposal. Coins. Today's politicians have a wide variety of different types of media to spread their message, but Roman emperors had to rely mostly on coins. Putting your face on a coin, usually with a super serious face to let everyone in the empire know how seriously you are taking the situation, while your head is surrounded by simple and shallow mottos as unity, eternal peace, in dodging times. Those coins couldn't impress any Roman citizen who just saw less and less valuable coins with different emperors spitting the same cliché mottos. Imperial
Just as how you see the money and devaluate now, that's exactly what took place.
propaganda had a very little effect on Romans, who started to value less and less the fact that they can live in the empire. Roman Empire was very diverse. Thousands of different speaking cultures and religions dwelt
A melting pot just like America.
within, and since emperors had almost no funds at their disposal, because almost all of them were spent on legions, the only way to win hearts and minds of Roman citizens for the Imperium was through cheap and shallow mottos that promoted inclusivity in the empire. It all started with Constitutio Antoniniana that granted Roman citizenship to every free Roman citizen. Efficient.
Let me just say inclusiveness. What take place now? Yo, go and play.
Making the Roman citizenship worthless. This caused Romans to stop caring about their Roman privilege they had, and they became invested more in hating other Romans than their enemies. Christians against pagans, province citizens against Italians, European soldiers against Eastern legions, Latin-speaking Romans against Greeks. Christians cheered when the last pagan emperor Julian was killed by Persians, while pagans applauded Visigoths when they sacked Rome in the new Christian empire. It became more important to defeat your opponent within the realm than defeating the true enemies waiting outside. There was seemingly a little resemblance between an ancient agrarian imperium and a modern economical superpower, but there are some similarities. The Roman state in the 3rd century was plagued by hyperinflation that caused a downfall of its monetary system. Both systems believed that their economic problems can be solved by printing/minting more money.
There's enough cash in the financial system, and there is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
Fair to say you simply flooded the system with money.
Yes, we did. That's another way to think about it.
It's another way to think about it. Listen, man, this is just one of many videos showing the similarity between America and ancient Rome. So this was just a quick video. I just want to show brothers when the scripture says in Revelation 13, say it exercised all the power of the first beast, and it made them to worship the image of the first beast. This is talking about the Roman Empire, yo. And we are in the second leg of the Roman Empire. So that I want to say Kalalal, Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai, Bashim Kodash, Shalom.